What's up, guys? Quincy Carrier back here again for another Q&A pregame version for the big Monday Night Football game. And again, it's a huge game, a game you probably don't want to watch alone, but due to all the restrictions, curfew, everything else that is going on, you might have to watch it alone, but not anymore, because I myself will be throwing a watch party for the Monday Night Football game here on this channel. Yes, I will be live streaming, live watching the game. So if you want to watch the game with me, chat with me, interact with me during the game on Monday night, then please make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you ding that notification bell so you don't miss out on that, because I know that's something you guys would enjoy. A watch along, again, Monday Night Football, Browns, Ravens, and Ravens going to be streaming. I'm going to be streaming during the game. So whether it's good or bad, you're going to have something to watch and something to react to. So again, you're going to want to make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of that, because that is going to be awesome. But now I'm going to jump into your questions. The first question comes from Mars, who says, do you think if the Browns beat the Ravens on Monday night, they will win the last 3 games of the season and possibly even win the division? Also, dog check. Winning the division is a tough one because, yes, the Browns are technically 2.5 games out, but that's more of a 3-game out lead that the Steelers have. So they would have to lose and go 12-4, and the Browns would have to go 13-3 in order to win the division. Specifically, just because they play Cincinnati as their last division game outside of Cleveland, and Cincinnati probably not going to beat them without Joe Burrow. So they will have the tiebreaker when it comes to division record. So winning the division still a long shot. Maybe if the Steelers lose to Buffalo, maybe if they lose to the Colts, then we're talking about something that could be cooking there, but they have to lose to the Buffalo, and then they also have to lose to the Colts for that to be a real conversation. And then the Browns have to win out, which is not a guarantee. There's some good teams on the schedule, some Monday night and Sunday night games, and then also beat the Steelers. So all that stuff is no guarantee. But can the Browns win out? That's the question. If they beat Baltimore, I think it's going to be interesting to see how this team reacts, because if you beat Baltimore, you're going to clinch the playoffs, and you're going to be playing a New York team at home in New York on Sunday Night Football that is going to be desperate to win that game. Now, that's going to be another playoff intensity game. The Browns are going to have 3 games back-to-back that are going to be playoff intensity versus teams that either are likely to make the playoffs or will make the playoffs. So that's going to be a tough ringer for them. But if they get to the Jets game and they have not lost the game yet, they get to 11 wins at that point, then yeah, it's right in front of them. But they have to get to that point. And it's going to be very difficult, and a little bit more difficult than we anticipated, because the Giants have been playing well and they're playing for a lot right now. And the Browns might get to that game and they might have already locked up their playoff fate. And now we're talking about seeding. So it's going to be interesting, these next 2 games, how the Browns come out of it. If they can get those 2 wins, if they can, play up to some playoff intensity here, where it's going to be very interesting. I'm excited for all of it. The next question comes from Dan1031, who says, I love what we did with Olivier Vernon at outside linebacker in the Tennessee game. So we had a 5th defensive lineman rushing. Should we do that against Lamar? Maybe even send some more, because he threw some ducks on Tuesday Night Football. Absolutely. Much like the Tennessee Titans, the Ravens game is going to come down to rushing direction, right? Ravens are really good at off tackle, not that good this year up the middle. Last year, they were excellent up the middle. This year, they have not been able to get it going in that same way. So if the Browns can come in, do the same thing they did against Tennessee to stop that outside zone, they're going to be able to shut down a lot of what Tennessee has done. Now, the key to this is going to be if Denzel Ward is healthy, because if Denzel Ward is healthy, then your secondary is going to hold up a lot better than it did against Tennessee in the second half, and you might play more of a complete game. But yeah, I do think they're probably going to come in doing the same thing, because the plan to stop Baltimore is not to kind of rush them and sack them. It's more or less to spread the defensive line out, make it as long as possible, make that line as wide as possible for them to run around, to slow that team down around the edges, to be able to get tackles for loss and get them behind the stick. So I think they're definitely going to do that. The next question comes from Basketball Boy, who says, do you think Myles Garrett has a chance at Defensive Player of the Year award? even though he was out for 2 weeks. Absolutely. If he has a big game on national TV for the next 2 weeks, or two big games on national TV in these 2 weeks, he will dominate the narratives, he will dominate the stat sheets, and he will be the defensive player of the year. This is where he wins the award. If he can have two big games here, he'll win the award. If he doesn't, it's going to be much more difficult for him. But I do think he has an opportunity here to do it, even though he missed 2 weeks. Next question comes from Vijes, who says, what would the option for Odell be once the season ends? Trade him, keep him, or the cap space will decrease? Well, you're not going to lose, or you're not going to gain any cap space because you cut Odell. That is a myth. He got injured this year. That means all of his money for next year is guaranteed. So you're not saving any cap space if you cut him, and I think that would be pretty stupid if you cut him. As far as trading him in the offseason, I don't think you're going to do that, because why trade him when his value is literally at the lowest, unless somebody's willing to give you a lot for a guy who has not proven he's back from injury. And honestly, I think the option is clear. I don't know why a lot of people question this. Just wait until the trade deadline next year, right? Just see what it's like. Is Odell really a problem when Baker Mayfield's playing well? Like, is that really an issue? Well, you can find out, right? Put Odell on the field with them at the beginning of next year. If it's a problem, get rid of him. If it's not, then woohoo, you got Odell working at a top level with Baker working at a top level. So there is no harm in waiting for the Cleveland Browns. There is nothing to gain here by rushing that, by trading him in the offseason, by getting rid of him before you see if he is actually a problem when Baker Mayfield's out there. So see if that's a problem. If it is, then get rid of him. Pretty simple, trade him. If it's not, then, hey, keep him. It's pretty simple. Why trade him when his trade value be lower because he hasn't come back healthy? And also, if you wait and he's a problem, then it's not because he's not healthy. It's just because, he's not a fit. And that's a lot easier to sell to other teams. So there is no harm and no reason to rush this whole Odell situation. And given what Andrew Berry's history it has been, the short history he has had with his team, I trust that they're not going to rush it. I think they're just going to take a wait-and-see approach, let him play some games next year, and if it's a problem, they'll get rid of him. The next question comes from Sean Barron, who says, what's up, Q? Will the Browns renew Chubb's contract this summer? I think he's important to this run game. He is. He's Nick Chubb. But will the Browns re-sign him? I think a lot of Nick Chubb's future contract situation, after he probably gets franchise tagged in his fifth year, because he is a second-round pick, no fifth-year option for him, so you're just going to franchise tag him for that fifth year. I think his future, as far as his long-term future with the Browns, is going to be tied to what Baker Mayfield demands from a salary standpoint. If Baker, and he does not have to do this, Baker does not have to do this, but if Baker is willing to take a pay cut, that will guarantee that they will use that money to keep Nick Chubb. If I were Baker Mayfield and I did take a pay cut, I would almost make it in writing that you're going to use the $15 million you didn't give me and give it to Nick Chubb, if you structure your deal like that. I think those two deals, Nick Chubb and Baker Mayfield, will probably be done at the same time and announced at the same time, because the way they're going to be structured are going to have to be compatible with each other in order to make a lot of sense long term. And I think both Baker Mayfield and Nick Chubb and the front office all are in lockstep with that, but that's just my feeling. That's not a report or anything that I know, but that's what I hope. I think that's what the situation is going to be. Next question comes from Gridiron Guide with JD, who says, what do you think of Hollywood Higgins getting his money on a contract extension? Also, if you had to choose a play to pay Baker or Nick Chubb first, who would you pay first and how much and why? You would probably have to pay Baker first because you got to lock up the quarterback. That just is what it is. And as far as Higgins, I like that Higgins going to get his money. They don't have a ton of money. I know it sounds crazy because we have Odell and Jarvis on the roster, but they're at sub-market value deals for what a top wide receiver goes for at like $15 million a piece. Those are pretty cheap deals. So you have room in there to give Rashard Higgins about $4 or $5 million a year for a couple of years to lock him up for this window that the Browns are going to have within the next 3 years. So that makes sense. Next question comes from David Miner, who says, who is the MVP this year? Patrick Mahomes. It's always going to be Patrick Mahomes. I say this all the time. Please stop comparing human quarterbacks to the alien known as Patrick Mahomes. He is not of this world. He is insane. He is super talented. He is one of the best to ever do it. I truly think so. So Patrick Mahomes, it's definitely Patrick Mahomes. Next question comes from Football Fan, who says, hey, Quincy, little out the blue question. Do you think the Los Angeles Rams could make it far in the playoffs? I think the defense is strong, but is the whole team good enough? I worry about that team's ability once a good defense goes up against them. I don't think their passing attack is good. I don't think Jared Goff is that good. I think if you can get a pass rush on them and disrupt some things, they will be limited on offense, and I don't think they're good enough running the ball to do damage if they're one-dimensional. Some people could say the same thing for the Browns, but the Browns, I think, are a better passing attack than the Rams, and also a much better rushing attack than the Rams, also a better offensive line than the Rams. So if the Browns need to go one-dimensional, they can do it, but also you have more faith, I think, at least I do, in Baker Mayfield to be able to create some offense in that offense versus Jared Goff. Next question comes from OE Club, who says, hey, QC, if Greedy Williams returned for Week 17, do you think it would give a boost to the defense, and would Greedy have a big game? It would be a lot to ask for a guy to have a big game coming off of nerve damage and not playing all season, so I would probably lean on the side of no. And this last question comes from V, who says, should we re-sign Vernon for another year since our D-line hasn't lived up to expectations other than Myles? No. You should not re-sign Olivier Vernon just because he's getting older, and I think you can get younger at the position and better at the position. I don't think that means you sign a free agent. Unless it's a very good free agent, a proven free agent, not somebody like a Bud Dupree. I don't want Bud Dupree or Matt Judon or something like that, or even a Unique Ngakoue if he becomes available. I want somebody who is a proven pass rusher. If you can't get that, which is probably not going to happen, get somebody in the draft, develop somebody alongside Myles, have somebody cheap. That way you can save some money on the cap and really invest in this defensive line's future going forward, because you want this defensive line to age well with Myles Garrett. And you want to get Myles Garrett his running mate, right? Like, you want to get him somebody to run alongside of him for a long time. And right now the Cleveland Browns definitely don't have that guy on the roster. So that's what I would want the Cleveland Browns to do. But that's it for the questions this week. Thank you guys for asking them. I hope you guys come to my live stream, my live watch along for the Monday Night Football game and chat it up with me there while I watch the game. But again, guys, have a great day and have a good night.